So when we got on the island, Armin and Betty Descharnes were the winter keepers, and they brought us on. And the first night we were here, getting ready for the October tour, he showed me everything on a Friday night, and they were leaving on a Saturday morning because another storm was brewing up.
But originally they planned to stay for 3 days.
Yeah. So he says, "Oh, you know enough, you're talented enough, so we're getting off here." And I said, "Well, there's one thing I want to learn, is show me how to catch lobsters." So he took me out for the quick half an hour. I learned how to catch lobsters, and we've been on our own since. So then we had a great time, great month, and a week before the storm actually hit, the perfect storm, Ann saw it brewing. And Ann's brother and niece were on the island for a visit. And Ann says, "Well, you better take them ashore. The seas are starting to kick up." So I said, I didn't believe her at first, but she knew more than I did, and to this day I'll never doubt her on the seas again. But so I got them ashore, and I came back, and it was very, very rough going. It was like I was surfing more than in a boat. And so I got back ashore, and as the days went on, we just found out we were buttoning down the hatches and taking all the precautions necessary, making sure we had enough fuel, whatever it was going to take. And then all of a sudden, I think it was a Friday evening. I think the Halloween was on a Saturday or Friday, but the night before it started kicking up, and we ended up opening up the boathouse. And I brought our little skiff all the way up, finally all the way up to the heliport, because the waves were just coming up and wrapping around the boathouse, to the stone house. And then I was videotaping the boathouse, and I got that on a tape where a wave come and took it down. And then we did lose our power, and Ann and I were sitting here just having lunch, and we lost our power. And I said, "Well, I'm going to go over to the whistle house and start the generator." So I go into the office and look out the window. I says, "Well, somebody left the door open on the whistle house." She comes over and says, "What are you talking about?" I says, "Well, look it." Here, to further ado, we kept on looking. I started walking down there. Well, a wave come and took the whole backside of the whistle house down.
The wall came down.
The whole wall came down, pushed the generators out, the fuel tanks, everything.
And those walls are 16 inches thick.
Yeah.
Solid brick.
So that left us without it, and we had a small little bitty generator. And the principal keeper's house wasn't even gleaming anybody's eye at the time, so I bolted down the generator next door, ran a couple cords over here for, some kind of power, for some lights and stuff like that. And so as the night as it kept on going, the night was approaching, and I started to panic a little bit, and Ann was calming me down. I said, "Well, we got to have some kind of electricity out here." I says, and the South Tower wasn't going because their generator failed. So with our radios, we contacted John Bennett and John Bennett then in turn called Armin, got all these directions, and they gave me the directions how to start that generator in the South Tower by hand, like I cranking it until it got going. So that night, Ann was very mad at me because I wanted to get up there and the waves were crashing around the bottom base of the tower. Well, I had to run up their ramp, unlock the door, and then get in just to get access to this generator. So I paced them. I said, "Okay, I'm going to do it." So I ran up the ramp, unlocked the door, and shut the door and got in, hand cranked the generator. Third try, it finally kicked in, and I felt, excuse me, I lit up Cape Ann, because it was the only functional navigational tower going on the East Coast.
Whole East Coast.
So then in turn, I ran back up, ran some extension cords back down, brought them in the cellar window, and then from there I just started branching off, running the furnace for a little while, then the refrigerator, then I'd hook up at the time we didn't have cell phones, we had a radio signal phone, so I hooked up the phone, and then finally called people, and then I started panicking a little bit more because it was getting darker and darker outside, and I couldn't see nothing. And I says, if I'm going to go, I want to see what's going to hit me. So she says, "Well, Dad," and I said, "Well, we had 2 cats," and I says, Well, I want to pack up the cats and
Well, he-
put some supplies in
Well, he thought someone was going to come and evacuate us.
by a helicopter.
And I just kind of said, we have 85-mile-an-hour winds and higher gusts and waves in our backyard. No one is coming.
Yeah. So I picked up a grip, put plastic bags, candles, matches, whatever it took, and
Put the cats in the
cats in the carrier in case we had to go to the highest ground we could find. And then all of a sudden I fell asleep, and I didn't wake up till the next morning. And then Ann told me some of her experiences while I was sleeping.
Yeah. Once he had packed up, he was calm and he fell asleep. And I was getting a little bit nervous because I could see the waves in the backyard. I could see waves in the front yard. And when we first got on, I had asked, do you ever have water up near the house? And they said, no, it had never happened. So I thought maybe that wasn't a good sign. So because we had limited use of the marine radio, I didn't want to squander it. But about 10:30 that night, I did call the Gloucester Coast Guard, or Aunt Boston, I think. Aunt Boston is aides to navigation team. And said, apparently very calmly, because Ned Cameron has it on tape, saying, this is Thacher Island. We have waves in the backyard. Is there cause for concern? Over. And the Coast Guard said, affirmative, Thacher Island. Do you need to evacuate? And I said, is that doable given 85-mile-an-hour winds and the size of these waves? And she said negative, and then I said, well, what the hell am I talking to you for? And I hung up. So